yield per fruit for the kiwi fruit industry is a big challenge and may become an increasing focus for growers as PSA reduces volume, perhaps. So here's an example of internal inspection of each kiwi fruit using near-infrared technology. The one grower last season was able to reduce the repack teams with a labour saving their numbers, $500,000 over 6 months. The ability to grade all fruit, not just the reject or suspected fruit. So instead of sampling 90 fruit out of a pallet and deciding to dump the pallet under repacking, every single kiwi fruit can be sampled, which has reduced the repack loss from 5% down to 0.5% of the repacked fruit. Able to sort dry matter for every fruit, not sampling 90 fruit out of 60,000 and making a decision on the dry matter, but actually sampling every fruit during the pack process. In the stone fruit area, we're now moving into the fruit processor industry as opposed to the fruit packhouse industry. This is an example here for stone fruit where the technology was applied to do several things. Firstly, measure the sugar level on all fruit and rejecting the low Brix level fruit. The processor needed a constant level of sugar sweetness in their canned fruit, and they were doing that by processing all fruit that came in and having to then load up on sugar syrups because the low Brix fruit was sucking down the average price as you can expect, the average Brix level as you can expect. They're now saving over $100,000 a month on sugar syrup as a result of using this technology. They're also optimising using the size to make sure that the right fruit go through the right de-stoners to minimise the amount of stone in the final product that goes into the can. The technology then looks at the fruit and sees whether there's any stone left and also rejects that. So the technology can apply in post-harvest, but it can also apply in processing. Just to see a little bit how the technology works, this slide shows citrus clear rot as you'd see it with your own eyes on the right-hand side. If you shone a UV light on it, this is what you'd see in the middle. And what our technology actually sees is the one on the left. And that's a software image, not a camera image. So our software can see that technology on the left and now sort for clear rot at 10 fruit per second per lane. A recent product we've taken to the market, again through customer collaboration, is eliminating overfill on pack weight and count bags. So that reduces reject from the supermarkets or the retailers for underfill and increases the return to the growers, and eliminates overfilling. So that little statistical image there shows you that a target weight without this pack weight and count optimizer, how do we put 10 fruit in a bag and get it to 1.040 grams, kilos I should say, or pounds in the US market. So how do we set a total weight and total count and then optimise the packhouse yield as a result of that? So this is showing plus or minus 1% from some targeted level. So with the pack weight optimizer, the sorter counts the apples, it measures the weight, and it puts them into the right bag. So as the bags fill, we end up with a statistical sample like this. So you can see on the right-hand side, that was the previous image that we had, showing the plus or minus 1%. So this shows 0 underfill bags, and the maximum overfill, or the average overfill, is about 0.4%. So the yield on that solution there has given this particular grower about a 3.3% increase in the number of bags per tonne. That cash goes straight to the bottom line. There's no additional cost for that. It's just a straight improvement in productivity and yield of 3.3% on their crop, where they're packing them into optimised bags. So where does this technology get applied? About 8 different places in the industry that we service, from grading and packing and repacking, automation to reduce labour costs, solutions now into repackers and to food processors. And perhaps the most exciting thing is item number 7 and number 8 there, where we're starting to manage the information that flows from the software, where we can report back to growers and benchmark growers one to the other in terms of defects, in terms of fruit performance in those 300 different parameters. And also to the industry, to let the industry look at pricing their high yield varietals in different ways. How can they put together a brand promise or an offer that recognises that high bricks fruit is important to Japan, that tartar products are more interest to Europe. We don't stand still though, so we're continuing to do research based on market research about what's important to customers. We've got some what we call blue sky or over the horizon research, some of which we're doing in New Zealand, some of which we're doing with universities in Africa and Europe, and some with some of the Crown Research Institutes, where we're looking at how do you non-invasively test for crunch? How do you look at soft bruises if an apple gets whacked like that, and you look at it right now as opposed to waiting for 4 days for that bruise to chemically deteriorate the apple? How do you take an avocado and put a label on it and put it at Marks and Spencer that says eat this weekend, or ready to eat in 5 days? Or how do you take avocados in Peru and say this one here is going to Mexico, this one here is going to California, this one here is going to Paris, this one here is going to Beijing, because we know when it'll be ready to eat. These are the technology threads that we're weaving into our future at the moment. So to close out, I guess I've got a couple of questions. In terms of the way I look at Compac, where it is on its journey from feral to federal, conquering the world. Compac has moved in some territories through an exporter process where we send fruit overseas, send packing technology overseas and hope that it'll work effectively, the exporter model. We're still doing that in some markets. In other markets, we're operating an imperial strategy where we say the consumers or the customers in the pack houses don't really understand the use of the technology yet in developing markets, so we have to teach them. In other markets, we're running a colonial model, so that's in South Korea and Italy and in South America, where we have joint ventures, where we've got an equity relationship with a local partner, minority usually, and we're working with them to understand the local market. And I spend probably 30% of my time in market with our colonial operations. And whilst in Uruguay last week, we started our first federal activity where we had a bunch of projects, technology projects and marketing projects, where we had Italians, Brazilians, Chileans, Uruguayans, South Koreans and Chinese on the phone all at the same time, going through the same set of strategic plans and looking at what it meant for their regions and how they could talk together to develop their businesses better. And there's about 30 action points that came out of that New Zealand's going to have nothing to do with. As the parent, that's fantastic when the kids can go off and play together and not get into trouble. So Compac's strategy is to stay curious. Hamish Kennedy, the founder of Compac, was curious in 1982 when he wondered how he could apply the technology to his mother's kiwifruit pack house. He remains curious to this day. He and I are heading off to the USA in 10 days' time to visit some potato processing companies who have a serious problem, and we think our technology can help them. That'll be a federal solution. We won't be necessarily exporting or manufacturing that technology in New Zealand, but we'll be applying the technology to a business problem. We have to keep reminding ourselves while we design and develop technology, which is what we get paid for, what our customers are actually buying is sorting performance. They're getting their pack house to work better, and we can't forget that. So in closing, I'd like to pose some more than rhetorical questions, I think. Peter Biggs talked about global brands. And the question for Hort New Zealand, are they a fear or an opportunity? What happens if those pack houses, as I said, point their fire hydrant of 7,000 tonnes a day fruit at New Zealand? But we do have some great case studies. Zespri in my channel story is a federal business. It's manufacturing in different countries, producing in different countries, but with a global brand. We heard about the wine today, the family of 12 and the complexity. That's a federal business model in my world. In California, there's a huge fight going on between easy peel cuties and navel oranges at the moment, and the cuties are winning. The navel industry in California